Helo, is fáilte oribh ha mi chotáiste a bhíon seo cálar even dú agus chotáiste cuideach a bhí nam chuideach cálarí díist aha taich mhór a thuairscá ar a chláir úracham URRANTA siad Angus Lyon agus Seonaid Aitken. Hello and welcome. I'm delighted to be here today and for you to join in with this chat with two of Scotland's leading performing and recording artists, and who both happen to have played a huge role in my debut album URRANTA. And I am delighted to be joined by Angus Lyon and shortly Seonaid Aitken. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. This is very exciting. Feels like
very exciting.
Having a gig.
Yeah.
Almost.
We're getting there. Well, I think before we start, what I'd like to do, Angus, is maybe get the chance to speak to you first, and it would be lovely just to share with people a little bit about how we first met and came to work with each other, and how this team came together for the album. So do you remember?
I remember a long drive to Campbellton.
Yeah.
Was that for the Songs of Aaron?
Yeah, it was with Gillian Frame and Ali Hutton.
Ali, yeah. So
yeah,
that's always a good way to meet someone is on a drive to Campbellton. So you're going to get to know each other a bit. So that weekend's a little bit hazy. I remember bits of it.
I remember playing the accordion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I was very impressed. Deirdre decided that the early hours of the morning in a session that I had to hand my accordion over to her. I obviously wasn't doing a good enough job, and I had to pass it over, and we got a memorable rendition of Callum's Road. So
we did, and I'm gutted it never made it on the album.
Yeah, do you know what? If I'd remembered, I would have definitely had you doing an accordion solo or accordion instrumental at some point, but missed an opportunity.
Yeah, it was for the Mulling of Kintyre Festival, and that was the first time that we'd played together, and the first time we'd actually met, in fact. And and I remember actually even later in that night, before the accordion came out, I remember I think saying to you, one day I'm going to make an album, and I'd love you to work on it. So we got there.
There you go. That's not bad turnaround actually. If that was like 10 years ago, because usually the I'm going to make an album one day thing can take anything up to 30 years of people procrastinating. So I think you did very well.
Did all right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Angus, I'm going to talk about another story about how this album came about. So I had just spent a few years abroad living in Malaysia, and when I came back, it was traditional music that I was missing so much when I was away from home. And when I came back from Malaysia, I again, that whole I'm going to make an album one day, and I was hoovering the flat one day, and I just thought, right, I'm messaging Angus right now, and if I don't do it, this isn't going to happen. And so I dropped the hoover, got the phone out, and I messaged you. And I remember throwing the phone away, back to the hoovering, and about 20 minutes later or so, you'd replied back going, great. And then that's where it all started.
Wow. And then many, many phone calls and WhatsApp voice messages later. Look at us now.
It's an integral part to an album process, is a WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
I think you maybe thought that you would never send a voice message yourself, but it's definitely something that you came round to.
I'm quite into it now. I've started doing it to other people.
Good work.
You get these big long messages from Deirdre, which actually is better, kind of explaining all the different things and all the edits. Not that there were any edits. I mean, this is pretty much a live album, but yeah, they'll be fun to listen back to in years to come.
We won't be sharing too many of them today, though.
Probably they've not been screened yet, so no.
Thankfully. So I think before we speak to Shona, it would be lovely as well to have just a little chat about the idea behind the album, because I remember quite clearly that we didn't necessarily want a traditional album, and yet it's rooted all in traditional Gaelic songs. So, do you want to chat a bit about the kind of feeling that we wanted for it?
Yeah, well, do you know those early conversations are really important? You know, I think I remember coming around to your flat and cups of tea and just kind of talk through stuff. And even, you know, always my starting point is always like, what are you listening to? Because you kind of have to make an album that's honest to what you like just now and what you're kind of interested in. So, you know, and you know, even after half an hour, we kind of had a couple of references that we're like quite excited about and going, okay. And the first thing I took away was just like, this needs to be a dramatic album. Like it's absolutely grounded in the tradition that it comes from. But, you know, the stuff I was letting you hear, we kind of a lot of the big strings and orchestral stuff. I was like, great, we can go for this. We can go big and make the emotions, make the musical kind of side of things, you know, really emotional and really kind of try and tell the stories of the songs as well as the lyrics, you know. So I think even from that first kind of chat, I was quite excited. I was like, right, we can have a lot of fun with this. It's not just it's going to be a traditional album because it's a traditional music, but it's not going to sound like a lot of other albums that have been done in that style. So, but you know, and things change as well. I think we initially talked about strings, and I think one of the first things was no guitar. That was one of the rules. But
sorry to all the wonderful guitar players and guitar lovers out there.
And the
but
next album will be
only guitar.
Yeah, it's because it's you know, it's just good just to limit yourself and just go, right, these are the tools that we're using and we're going to work with this.
I think what was quite nice was I had strong ideas about how I wanted it to sound, and you understood that from the word go, and we both kind of really got in line with it. And it was good to have these kind of really open, frank conversations that we definitely had a vision. It's just that I initially wanted a full symphony orchestra, and then very quickly realised that wasn't gonna quite happen.
That was fine.
My bank balance wasn't up for that though. But the fact that we did have that very, very clear vision that we wanted drama coming out of the album, kind of feel the feels. If you're going to feel an emotion, then really push that to the limit. And that's something that I got excited about once we'd started talking about that. But also you obviously have had a lot of experience in producing albums, so to kind of to take those ideas, I had no idea how far we were going to elevate them.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that was the first kind of step of like, okay, we want this sound. I was like, we need Shona. You know, we need Shona.
Shall we introduce Shona?
Yeah, is she there?
Yeah,
she made it.
She's here. She's made
Can't
it.
believe she's late.
Oh,
shocking.
We'll give her a round. Here she is. Hello.
Hi, folks. How's it going?
Good.
Very well. We were just talking about you.
All good.
I just heard that. I've had a bit of a tech nightmare, but I am now on my mobile phone. Trusty mobile phone.
Well, you're here and we're delighted to have you here. Welcome, Shona. It's so nice to see you. Are you well?
Oh, you too.
We were just talking about the kind of straight from the first conversation, how the album, we wanted it to be kind of dramatic and to have, well, I was saying I wanted a symphony orchestra, and but what I got instead was so stunningly beautiful, and I've got you to thank for that. So that string quartet has really been a massive talking point since the album has come out. So it's really elevated in a way that I couldn't have dreamt of. I've just seen a comment coming in. Shall I show it to you? I've got Laura Wilkie here. She's asking what were some of the things you've been listening to which led to that dramatic feel. So there were actually two artists. Well, there were more that Angus introduced me to. One being yourself, Shona, because we hadn't actually met before this at all. But two artists that I kind of referenced quite a lot when we were doing this was Melody Gardot, who I had just fallen in love with, her album Currency of Man. And just I loved that closeness. Her vocals sounded like she was right up there, and then these really lush, grand strings in it. That was a big kind of wow moment for me. But the other thing was I had gone and seen a band, Marabou State, quite a few times in the year leading up to the album, and that was through my brothers that I'd been introduced to Marabou State. And so I think we'll maybe talk about that later on, but kind of a bit of electronic influences. So strangely, not traditional Scottish, but two very different kind of musical influences that I presented to you guys, and then you opened up my mind an awful lot more than that. So it was cool.
You had a very unhealthy obsession with Marabou State for a while there. It was like one track, it was like this. And I was like, I know, I've heard it. It's good. It's really good.
I did. And actually, we'll talk about it in a bit. It might surprise you which track it was, but there was one track on the album that I definitely just wanted it to be Marabou State. And it's ended up the most opposite that you would ever expect at all. But yeah, Laura, they are the kind of main influences on me anyway when we were making it. So, we've just noticed that Laura was commenting there. If you are watching today, it'd be lovely if you are wanting to ask any questions as we go along, then please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try and answer them. Or even if you just want to say hello and let us know where you're listening from, that would be brilliant to hear from you. So, we've talked, Shona, about the idea behind the album, kind of taking songs that are so rooted in tradition, but using the emotion of the songs to really get the most out of the feelings. And really the only answer was to kind of get a classical feel to the strings, and I was hoping for a kind of big filmscape kind of sound, which you just nailed. And thankfully, because at one point I had suggested to Angus I could challenge myself and maybe write a string part myself.
Which they would have been great, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's always worth
All
having
that
a go.
stress. Yeah.
But no, Angus very wisely steered me in your direction. So I think what we'll maybe do just now is talk a little bit about the process of building up the album, how we started from that conversation, and then how we then took it to building up the layers and all the different recording weekends that we had, and what point different people came into the process. And then we'll maybe have a listen to the album and chat as we go.
Great.
So Angus, you've produced quite a few albums before, and I suppose this was my first album that I've done solo. But so for me, what really worked well was the idea that we recorded demos and we decided on the songs, the structures, the keys, the tempo, everything like that got set really early on, and then those demos were sent out, and we built up. We sent them out, we built up, we had a string recording weekend, and then we had a bass and drums weekend, and then by the time it got to the vocals, we'd essentially built up a backing track. And is that the kind of approach you would usually take, or would it differ every time when you're producing?
It does, it changes quite a lot depending. I mean, with this project, because it wasn't a band, I mean, my kind of two ways of doing things. If it's a band, I kind of like to do things as live as possible. I like people in the same room, everybody together, and everybody playing as many of the parts live as possible, because it's just, you just get that feeling of people playing together, and you're not all sitting with click tracks and headphones. And but with an album like this, a solo album from a singer, I like as much of the arrangements, and I like to know as much what we're going to be doing before we even get close to the studio. So I remember like coming into Glasgow and sitting at your really nicely out of tune piano, which was kind of nice to play. It was just like,
it's been tuned.
Oh, lovely. But just taking those days and just slowly going through the songs. And for me, like, the first step was, because I don't speak Gaelic, it was like I really have to understand. I had to have all the translations of the songs, because there's no point in putting, in the killer moment in the song where it's like the real heartbreak moment, and you put a nice major 7 chord on it, it's like, and I've learned that the hard way because I've done that quite a few times.
But you know that I was never going to let you away with that one, though.
No, but it really helps. You know, it's to even just putting a chart together and start to get the form and the shape of things, and you know what kind of rhythms we should be using and stuff. You have to have, you have to really understand what you're working with first. So working that way first, having a couple of days, and then there was always a bit of time. It wasn't like we were doing all this in a rush. So we would do that, go away, go and work on other things, and then come back a few months later, and just then I would start building on Pro Tools, just like putting demo piano parts in and stuff. So by the time that I sent the stuff over to Shona, we kind of had a form and a structure in place of knowing where we were and a kind of basic arrangement of those parts. So yeah, for this one it was perfect. It was I liked the way that we, everything wasn't on top of each other. We got some arrangement time. Then you came down. We did some guide vocals, so we had those as well in place.
We did. I think we recorded the guide vocals in January 2019.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So I think
that's kind of, we'd had a conversation, I think, the March before, and then January 2019 is when we actually started recording.
Then we had the string weekend.
Oh,
I've never seen anybody as excited in the studio as Deirdre was after you did that first take.
Oh, really?
I've also never seen anyone as stressed the night before. And I was like, but honestly, trust me, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's true. I was, but the reason is, I think, this is my first album, and it's your baby in a way, and you put your heart and soul into it, and then you just hope that conversation that you've had, because Shona, we met for a cup of tea in a bar in Glasgow, and to chat about them, and you just hope that the idea that you've put across has been communicated well enough, and that you get it. And then when it's when the demos came in, so I was like this. I was going, I don't know if I've actually said what I really want. And then I couldn't believe it. Like, yeah, it went from kind of that very, very nervous feeling to just going, I don't know why I felt that way. It was incredible.
That was the nerve-wracking part for me.
You absolutely went for it. You didn't hold back.
Well, that was kind of the brief, wasn't it? You were like, we want this really to be kind of string-led, epic, kind of dramatic, which is what I love to do. And even though it was just 4 strings, it's still, it's still possible, some of these large textures, and really dramatic sounds. So it was great getting the demos from you guys, because sometimes it would just be a keyboard and your voice. And then you just say, just run with it. I want this kind of feel. This is what the song's about. And yeah, just really great to be trusted to shape it, my way, and then put some demos together for you. And then that's a nerve-wracking bit, just waiting on you getting back to say, did I get it? Did I really, did I get what you're wanting? So I was dead chuffed when I got some positive feedback.
I think the reaction was very high pitched and very energetic.
That was the loudest weekend I've had in the studio ever. It was just like the noise coming from the other room.
There was a lot of giggling, wasn't there?
A lot, yeah.
This is only the two of us right now. Throw into the mix, we also had the amazing Kristen Harvey and Patsy Reed and Alice Allen as well. Alice I hadn't met before, but Patsy and Kristen I had, and we just gelled and had an absolute riot.
We certainly did.
Angus, I think you had originally said, come down for the string weekend, you can come and stay at the house, and then when it came to it, went, I think you might want to stay in the studio with the string girls.
Yeah.
And we...
By the time I left at kind of 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, I was like, right, I'm going to go off. And it was just the party was in full swing. And I was like, this will be interesting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning when we're doing some really slow, sad music.
Definitely. Such good memories. So, why don't we start playing the album, and we'll put it on, and we'll try and keep it kind of low so we can just chat as we go, and go through each track. I'd love to share a wee bit with you about each song, what it's about, and then we'll just talk more about those strings, more about that production technique, and then more about the party at the studio.
Okay, I'll start playing us back. Just let me know if you guys, the level's okay.
Yeah.
So, track 1.
Oh.
That's me playing piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is lovely. So this song is from Sky, and it's one that I originally heard from the singing of Maggie MacDonald, and who was a beautiful Gaelic singer. And what I love about this song is it was composed by a man who was too old to go to war, and which sounds like quite a heavy subject for the opening track of an album. But the poetry is so simple. He's just singing his respect and praise for the young lads that left from different villages in Skye, and that in itself just gets my heart, because of course, you know, the Great War, nobody knew the horrors that were in store before they went off to war, of course. And so the poetry is just really, really simple. And I have to admit, when I first heard the demo shown of the strings, I thought you'd forgotten to do some. I thought, oh right, are we just having this one piano and voice? And I had a slight panicked moment where I was like, where are they? And
I've paid for strings.
yeah.
Wonderful
Just
part one.
about to come in, and there they are, and they come in just there, and I went, oh, because the line that they come in on is just it's the crunch line in the poem. It's kind of singing the praise, the village that they go from. They're kilted, they're away. I watch them as they go, you know, with the pipes and everything. And then that one line that they come in on is like they were going to defend the land, and it was defend the crown and the ruin that happened and everything. It's on that word that the power comes in. I just find that hugely emotional. So what did you decide when you were putting the strings in there?
Yeah, I wanted because it's the first track, you said as well, it's going to be the first track. So I wanted your voice to shine, you know, because it's such a sort of plaintive song as well, you know, it's so beautiful, so simple. I didn't want to spoil it with just going, hey, big loads of strings, and yay, here we are, vibrato, you know. So I wanted you to have a moment, you know, everyone get to know your voice, and then just warm it up. And then gradually it gets more and more complex and more and more sort of tugging on the heartstrings, I guess, as the verses.
There's even though it sounds so simple and open, there's quite a lot of movement in those strings. They're not all it's not like pads. They're not going together totally. There's beautiful movement in them.
Yeah,
I love that.
Just a little bit of interest. And yes, and that was your addition. You said you really wanted that that rhythm picked up with the strings. Yeah, which is a really great idea, and it just really punctuates it so well, what you're doing in the vocal.
Yeah, lovely. I think I always... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, it was a great, you know, having a running order, having an album that starts and not... I don't like throwing everything. You know, sometimes you go, okay, the first track, we've got to show everything we've got. You put the big track on there, put all the big sounds on, and really try and hold people, and it's like... I think it's so much more powerful just starting simple and just building your way into an album. And yeah, it was the perfect thing just to have it starting so simply with your voice, and then it gives you a little hint of what's to come, but not too much.
Not too much, because it changes.
Yep.
Definitely.
Definitely changes. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Sure.
Track 2.
All right. So, this song, another Sky song, And this is one that I've sung since, well, I didn't so much sing it, but I used to have a family band when I was young with my brother Magnus and my sister Kathleen. And we would sing this in the folk group, and I think we entered the mod with it one year. But it's one that I've known for years and years. And it's this guy who is kind of berating the fact that he has had a ban put on him from going and foraging on the land. When I say foraging, he was poaching. But there were certain, turn a blind eye that was going on to people using the land and getting food. And then, of course, when kind of more the landowners started putting stops on that, this is the song that came out. He was quite affronted that he wasn't allowed to do that anymore, and he was advised by his lawyer uncle in Edinburgh, don't do it. So it's kind of a bit punchy. It's got attitude in the song, and I wanted a cross rhythm going on, which you took to another level. I mean, I don't know what rhythms are going on in this string arrangement.
Well, this was Angus's piano part originally. He says, can you make it sound like this?
I did a really, really dodgy Wurlitzer part. I need to find that somewhere. It was just like you going and trying to get the idea. But I knew instantly, I was like, this is never going to sound good with me playing it. So I was like, why don't I not play on this one?
I think that's a cop-out, Angus, because the rhythms, this was definitely the most hilarious track to try and put together with the chord structure, because it changed. You kept hearing the one somewhere else, and I was like, no. And there were voice messages. I was going, okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ah, so simple. Don't know how I never saw it.
Yeah, it took me a while to take it as well, even after Angus had done the groundwork. Because it does chop and change all the way through, but
it does.
Really exciting because of that.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you listen to it now, it flows. That you wouldn't necessarily think it's an unusual, time signature, but I suppose that's a trick.
Yeah, exactly. This one was a lot of fun. I remember when the strings were recording. I love that wee bit. When the strings came into the chords, the quartet, the rest of them hadn't ever seen the parts before they were in the studio, and I remember the squeals, just going, "Whoa, this is so much fun to play!" Like, it was lovely. Like, Kristen, Patsy, and Alan, you gave them all such good balanced parts as well.
Yeah, that's what I always aim to do. I never want anyone to be bored, with their part. Oh, I've just got a root again, or I'm just playing the third, and I want it totally. I mean, that's what it's all about for me. I think because I'm a string player, I want to challenge the players, and particularly because I know they're so well and their and what they can do, their capabilities. It's really inspiring to write for people like that they're fantastic choppers, for example, Alice and Patty, who really, really hold down that rhythm with all the chopping and the melody notes and root notes in between. It's a great challenge for me to write for them, but just to hear them play that as well, really get stuck into it and get into the groove. It's pretty awesome. And then Kristen's just a fantastic second violin player. To me, she's banging tune, banging the groove,
Yeah.
And such a cool girl too.
Yeah. What folk maybe don't realise is we did all the string parts were recorded in pretty much 2 days. But really, time we set up and got all the mics and stuff, it's a day and a half, and nobody had seen the parts. So for most of the songs, like that one in particular, it was only 3 takes were ever done from having just got the music to that's what's on the album, and that's incredible. Like it's I can believe how quick we were getting through them. Players. It was like, okay, that's done. I'm happy. Next. Like, oh. But you've got the right parts and the right players. It's not a hard job.
Definitely.
It's lovely as well because the string players that you chose have got, Kristen, brilliant Arcadian fiddle player, Patsy, such a distinctive style in her playing as well. But they get that whole the dual world there, so it's just the perfect blend. So yeah,
Definitely, yeah. They've all had classical training. Same with Alice. She's classical and folk based. You know, she's got
yeah,
grooves for days. So does Patsy. So yeah, so it's just brilliant to know how to write for them. You know, and to trust that they're just going to absolutely nail it, whatever you write. And yeah, but I think the important thing is to groove, and then that's such a groovy tune, a
yeah,
groovy song, and it's got to be right in the pocket, which they absolutely got.
It's great
definitely.
seeing you guys do it live. The couple of times we've done it for like Celtic Connections and stuff, and I just get to sit there and go, "This is cool." Sit back and take it all in. But it's so good because when you see it live, it's just exactly like it is on the record. It's just all the same players and the same parts, and it's
Yeah.
like, there you go. That's
We should also mention as well, I suppose, that there's also double bass on that track though as well. So the
yes,
string quartet
Yes.
was recorded November 2019, and then last February 2020, we had drums and bass recording, and James Lindsay was just an absolute maestro on the double bass, and that just really lifted that kind of punchy bottom end of it as well, which was
and
pretty cool.
on that one particularly, James, I just kind of threw it at him because it wasn't one we had mapped down. We were just going to have it as quartet, so there wasn't a part written. There was just like the chord chart, and it was just like,
Yeah, that's
James, can you try this? And it took him like 10 minutes to come up with a part, and then a couple of takes, and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, credit to James for that, because it was like, I think it was the last thing we did as well. It was like one of those, we've got an hour
One of
left,
those.
let's try
Yeah.
this, and
Great.
yeah, and he came up with a great part that just totally sinks in. And yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So we've reached that that important track 3 on the album. This is something, Angus, you're always talking about track 3.
oh, it's crucial. Yeah, it's where people decide. Well, when people used to listen to full albums, our generation, when you got a record, it was track 3 for me is always the kind of killer. It's always like you kind of know where it's going to go. It's like it has to have something a bit different. But you know, if you're starting to repeat yourself already by track 3, you've got problems. You know, so I think it's an important marker in a record of what's going to go on after that. So yeah, I don't know. It's just always been something that's in my head of like when you're sequencing albums and kind of putting tracks together. So, but I'm quite pleased with this one turned out. It's kind of got an unexpected twist halfway through it, which is quite. The kind of first
What,
time
track
the album
3?
takes
Yeah.
a turn, another turn. It's like, ooh, it gets very
We
loud.
talked about drama. We definitely went dramatic on this one. Shall we play it? Okay, so this is a song that I first heard. Well, I got it from Kenna Campbell, just a huge source of inspiration, and has given me a wealth of songs over when I studied at uni, and also just since then. She's just remained such an important person in my musical life and in my classical life. And Kenna gave me this song, and it's like a hybrid of 2 different versions. It's Walking Some from Barra, and it's telling. There's not a huge amount to the story. It's a girl who's going up a hill to tend to the cattle, and then she's asking, what news of my love Donald over in Slate and Skye, and she finds out that Donald he is betrothed to another, and you'll hear when that kicks in. She's not happy.
Goes mad in drums.
That's such an epic moment when that comes in, I must say.
Do you know, it was so funny because we recorded this one for Celtic Connections, and I look back at the track, and when it gets to that point, you see my head fling around because I can hear the drums in my head. And then I was like, well, yeah, they're not here.
It's really hard playing that live without, you know, because it's like, you
You're
know what impact should be
expecting the
happening.
crash. Exactly.
Yeah, we had so the album was mixed by Chris Waite, fantastic engineer, works down here with me, and myself, and we spent quite a lot of time on this track of like trying to get those 2 worlds to meet up and trying to make that impact as loud as we possibly could. So that was the best part of the whole night one night. But and then all the little bits that add in and kind of happen at that point. But
Yeah, seeing a couple of messages. Jane saying, an absolute favourite and a powerful song. It's definitely powerful, and a few people enjoying this track. So it's so interesting to hear that reaction though from people.
Yeah.
Angus, I've got a question for you at this part of the song. The wee line on the cello there. Was that your? Oh, there they are.
The dum-bum-bum. I can't remember.
The little melodic line. I think it was me that maybe wrote that.
Oh, was it? It was just a soaring wee line. It's lovely.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of octave lines. So if you get a really good line, then just double it, the octave above or the octave below for power. And for this song particularly, I was using a lot of viola and cello, just for that dark, powerful sound, kind of late Beethoven, you know, where he was just going mental and creating really dark sound worlds, you know. Not that I want to compare this to Beethoven, but you know, it's definitely that kind of low power.
It's got these amazing kind of like rising arpeggio. Just sweeps up. It's amazing. Those high notes then as well. We've got the whole dimension goes enormously.
Yeah, it's just really. Yeah, oh, that'd be amazing. Just totally building the intensity, keeping it going.
And then you don't think it can get any stronger, and then this bit comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gave this track a wee.
No, you go.
I gave this track a wee sneak peek to my pal Jane one day in the car, playing the demo out of my phone with like terrible audio, no speakers or anything, and she just went. Angus, you tried to get me to stop.
I was going to say that on our first kind of, you know, after the first rehearsal, was like, you know, the best thing to do is don't let anyone hear it until it's done. Like, you know, demos or any other kind of rough mixes or anything like that. And Deirdre did exactly the opposite. By letting the whole of Scotland hear it at every stage. It was like, but she didn't tell me, but the amount of people, like, as we're working on it, everybody I was working with, like, oh, Deirdre's album sounding great. And I was like, how have you heard it? I was like, because I bumped into Deirdre at Asda and she let me hear it. So I finally just kind of gave up trying to like hold back.
First person in the world ever to make an album.
I was like, oh my goodness. So it's like, it's not
just sheer excitement.
Yeah.
Oh,
quite
massive excitement.
Right, yeah.
Rory Graham, drums are banging, eh? They sure are.
They so are.
They totally are. Rory, just an absolute delight to have my brother, Rory, on the album as well. That meant a big amount to me. It was really important that the team of people who played in the album was a really happy team. I really wanted a positive experience out of all the recording sessions, and it was just so important to have had my brother on the album, and then everyone that we had in. It was a real delight, and it was a great energy, wasn't it?
Fun.
Right. Not heartbreak yet. We're going to go for a love song now.
Oh.
Donald. There's so many parts in this album that make me tear up still, even though I was directly involved in it. It's just one of those emotional albums.
Oh, Deirdre's going to cry. I can see it happening.
Oh.
We're going to get her.
Well, I think actually when we were doing the recording, when Angus and I would spend the time in the booth, and we had a lot of blethers, and then we just spent most of the time going, Donald, the whole weekend.
It was either Ian or Donald.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh, this is a comment in from Louise. This is her favourite. So this one, I've sung this song for about 20 years now, and it's a beautiful love song from Kintyre. It's actually one that we're so lucky to have in our repertoire, and there's not really anything known about the song. We don't know the composer. We don't know. We know it was from Kintyre, but we know nothing about the composer, when it was composed, or anything. And it's just a beautiful example of poetry. The imagery in it is stunning. It's just in praise of this guy, Donald, who's a bit of a hunk and a great hunter, and gracious and generous, and just an absolute declaration, outpouring of love. And lovely, because in Gaelic so many of our songs are really miserable, that this just felt for me the kind of, you know, that romantic bit in a film where the people are waltzing and just having their wee dance. This one is it for me.
This instrumental coming up is killer.
Oh,
Just
should we just listen?
here we go.
The way that it passes, though, from the violin to the viola is beautiful.
No, I don't want to
do that
hog all
quite
the
a-
high tunes. I've actually felt bad because Angus was playing that line already on the keyboard, and I just reinforced it with strings. But as soon as the high violin comes in, it kind of takes over.
No,
So sorry about
weirdly
that,
though-
Angus.
No, not at all. There was, I think I put on the demo I sent to you, there's like a little Wurlitzer playing it, not the piano. And it was just in for so long. When something's been in a track for so long, it ends up just kind of staying. So it's still there. You can hear it a little bit underneath. But it just was
great.
kind of just was nice, but it's totally random. Like, it doesn't appear anywhere else in the track. It's just this little thing. But it seemed to work, so I was like, I'm just keeping it in.
Oh, that's lovely.
But
And again, I like sharing the wealth around the string quartet, because I know the players are just so good. So, why not pass on a melody from the violin into the viola?
Yeah.
Who's, as strong a player to carry on,
Yeah.
strong a sound.
it still amazes me the sounds you get off a string quartet. You know, going back before I'd worked a lot with strings, it's like I would just think, oh, this is clearly an orchestra. You know, it's like it just sounds massive, and it's like, no, it's 4 people, and we didn't double track. I think in a couple of the bigger ones we double tracked, but in all these, it's just the 4 players. There's nothing else. It just sounds so big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like
I
writing
think,
sort of little intricate parts in between, especially this one, just to keep that kind of swing feel going. So there's some inner parts
Yeah,
just swinging away.
you can hear that. Dun, doo, 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 doo,
Yeah.
doo, doo. It's got that lovely
part,
wee
yeah,
rhythm
exactly.
going through it as well.
The piano
And then
part's just doing a waltz. You know, it's just a really
Yeah.
nice flowing waltzy part. You know, it's
I love as well, it doesn't stop where you think it's going to stop. You've just got this lovely long outro. It just keeps going. It doesn't feel like it just has to come to an end because the song's done. It's a really lovely ending as well.
Yeah. Oh.
so if that.
And just having Alice on the cello as well, leading that song off, just what a stunning player.
Yeah.
She played part of Donald there.
Yeah, playing the role of Donald tonight.
That's Ellen, then roll off.
You should get we need a Gaelic rom-com movie so you can get that on the soundtrack. Get like kind of Love Actually. What's Gaelic for Love Actually? We'll just remake it.
Great idea.
Let's move on. I'm going to lose it. I'll get in
Start
touch
with
with BBC Alapa.
Great idea.
Don't tempt me. Right. Let's get back up beat. I think after that lovely, oh, there it is. We need that wee lift again. So we just went, again, something totally different. And this song, Ormór Scorebrech, it's a fragment of a song, really. There's not too many words. I think from a song that had about maybe 5 lines in it, we made it into something pretty big. And this one, it's just a song that's kind of commenting on a boat coming into Portree and just the courtiers and the grand people that are going to be singing on it. It's just a wee bit of a praise song. And I think we made it into just something really fun, totally different again. I call this one the Robocop one.
That's
It's got a sound in it.
That was Chris Waite did that. That was so it's James's bass part. I think he's playing electric bass, but there's also like a Moog bass on it as well. And Chris had this plug-in that's like a tremolo octave thing, and it goes. And we were just messing about, and I was like, that. 'Cause it still needed something. It was a really tricky track, this, because it's the first one you've heard with a kind of different sound like this, and you're trying to make it link to the other stuff in the album. So the strings have to be really prominent and kind of really, so it still feels like the same band and doesn't feel like you just put on a new album. So it was a bit of work trying to make this one sit, but I'm really pleased with it. It's one of my favourite tracks.
It's cool, Angus, you came up with that whole 7/8 thing. So the instructions were all 7/8, and then it was going, the songs are straight 4/4, and it's quite sung very straight. And then you had this, in the break, you've got a 7/8 over 5/4 thing going on, climbing up the strings. And it was just, it went from, the strings are really prominent, but at the same time I felt like this was the one where the strings weren't the biggest focus, and it was, I found that really interesting. Like, how did you know when to push the strings, and how did you know when to pull them back, like knowing there would be other stuff?
I don't know, I think because this had a beat in it to begin with, I was like, right, this is going to be quite full already, so there's not much sort of, I don't need much texture. Sorry, rephrase that, I don't need much sort of harmonic grounding. So what I went for is more textural stuff. So cool pizzicatos, those sort of up bow staccatos. That was, the girls were laughing at me. I was like, right, we're going to do it all up bow. So it was fun trying to get that together. And then some kind of high sort of cluster chords and stuff, just to give it a bit more, expand it a bit more. Because I knew there's going to be a lot of stuff filling out the bass and the groove.
And this is the first one as well, with Rory's drums, just Rory doing what he does really good, solid kit drumming there is just totally rocking it, bringing that in.
Yeah.
And that, you know, at every stage when because the strings were actually, we had the scratch demo with my terrible drum programming on it, and then the strings were the first thing on, and then Rory came in, it's, you know, nothing's set in stone, so you kind of get a feel in these sessions for what's working. You try a few things out, and just instantly I was like, right, I know where we're going with this now. I mean, once I heard him play on it, it kind of informed everything else that went on from that point. And a nice little chilled out ending just to bring us back into the other world.
Yeah. I've got a question in here from
yeah.
Question here from Ollie Jones saying, what do you think characterises this contemporary string soundtrack?
Probably all of those kind of techniques that I've just described, using those cool little techniques just to vary up a bit, maybe, and just writing strongly for each player, not just big block chords, because quite a lot of the time people think strings are just, you know, what you can achieve on your keyboard. You know, you can play some chords and, oh, that's a nice string pad, and you know, that's what it's like. That's it. That's just the epitome. It's just like a sort of harmonic reinforcer. But yeah, I'm definitely right for the players, and to make it interesting sounding for your record, but also interesting for us to play. Yeah.
Knowing them as well, and
when you've got a great part, you know, when you're on any session, when you look at the music, you're like, oh, cool. You definitely play with more energy, and that just it just adds, all these little things just add up and add up and add up, and until you have something that's just really interesting to listen to. You know, it just brings everything to life. So it's it's always good.
But definitely having the freedom to do that as well is the main thing. You know, to have whoever's commissioning you to put the trust in you, you know, and just let you fly.
Definitely.
Which is great. Thanks, Deirdre.
Right. What's the next track?
I don't know. It's in Gaelic. I can't read it.
It's in So we just had that glimpse of kind of upbeat and what's to come later, but then we take a real energy right down, and now we start to really pull on the heartstrings again. And I took the step of putting two slow ones together. So we've got Hamiski and the Ockershaw and Ian Killeen Cooley back to back. It's about 10-12 minutes worth of music. Shall we hit it?
Was this one we did live as well?
Yeah, they were, well,
Yes.
Excuse me, yeah. It's the only track that remains live on the album, which is so lovely. We talk about that party night at Grand's house, and I was thinking the next day, oh, this is grand, I've partied, this is the string weekend. And then this song and the next song were the last two that we recorded, and I was like, oh, I didn't think I would have to sing today.
Yeah.
But this was late in the day on the Sunday, and we did these two back to back.
I think this was the first take as well. I think we did 2 takes of this, and we ended up using the first take.
A one take
Great.
wonder.
Yeah.
Magic.
So that's quite a nice little thing. Easy
Yeah.
peasy.
Yeah. I remember we
Angus,
were. Oh,
On you go.
I was just going to say, I remember that we were a little bit bow bounce. You know, when you get nervous as a string player, you do have a little bit of shaky arm, your bow bounces if you're trying to play like super quiet, which we were there, trying to really tune into your voice and hear Angus's keyboard. He was playing it along with us. So it was like, I don't want to play too early, and we just had to time it perfectly with your vocal, which is a skill.
And it always gets worse as the track goes on. You're like, okay, we're almost at the end of the last verse, and you're like, don't be the one that gets it wrong, and everybody has to do it again. And it's like, come on, just get over the line.
But I'm amazed actually at how tight we did, like, because it's probably worth noting out we were in 3 different rooms recording this live. So the strings were in the live room, I was in the vocal booth, and Angus, you were in the actual control room, were you not?
And yeah, trying to record it as well, was hitting all the buttons. And,
yeah, of course. So we it's totally live, but we literally only had the sensation of listening to play it together,
Station
and
of
just
Listening.
this.
The new album from Deirdre. Graham.
That's the next one coming out in 2027. Trying to make a really profound point here.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
But it just really heightened that sense. We really were together. I'm amazed how well it did come. And of course, because there are points, I was quite particular on the points that you had to hit where the notes were coming, had to match up with the syllables that I was singing to hit the kind of rhyming words in the rhyming scheme of the poetry. So I think we managed it.
Definitely.
And it's,
I just wrote quite. Sorry, Angus, you go.
No, on you go. Sorry, I keep doing that.
Okay, I was just going to say I wrote quite block chords for this, so we're all kind of breathing at the same time with the melody, but not just straight harmony, making them interesting with picking up some things that Angus had done, like nights and interesting suspensions, and so it wasn't too classical sounding.
Oh, it's a dream.
It's
Katrina
guys,
Nichkanchuni, our favourite one. Katrina Tinney.
See, when you're recording like this, do you feel, you know how a lot of people are like, oh, I need to be able to see people, I need to be able to, put up all these pauses and stuff. But I think it's weird. You can put the headphones on, you just kind of, you're working away, do what you're doing, and it's like you can kind of sense when people are going to go. It's like I never really need to look at someone. I can kind of feel. You can hear them from a singer point of view. You can hear a breath going, and you just know that's going to be your cue. But yeah, it was amazingly easy to record this.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, because we were just purely using our cans, and really tuning into exactly what you were doing. You're doing your every breath. We're like, So we were just totally breathing with you, I think.
And as I just wallowed in the whole emotion of it, I just maybe took longer pauses than usual.
You're entitled to.
Go.
Shall we hit play on Ian as well and keep going with the slow ones?
Ian.
Oh,
So, that one that we just listened to, Angus, your dad was in the room. Do you remember?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was lovely.
He popped in.
Yeah. He came in he occasionally just pops into the studio, come up and see what's going on. So yeah, he was loving it. Yeah,
That was really nice. Oh, it's getting heavy now.
Ian.
This is the ultimate heartbreak album. I think this is the one with that beautiful big string opening. That was that big swelling string thing that I was hoping for, and I think that is maybe an influence I feel of the Melody of Gardo reference coming through there with that beautiful string, almost an overture.
yeah. And Angus had said to me as well, he says, maybe throw in a bit of Craig Armstrong there. I remember going and listening to some of his string arrangements, and what struck me about them is that they're quite spread out, really high violins, low cellos, and, it's just filling things out in the middle very sparsely, and, spreading the chord through the whole range of the instruments. I think it's more effective with loads of string players on each part, and the way he achieves it, but definitely I think it worked, and just with the quartet for that one.
Yeah.
Well, if we're doing the Gaelic Love Actually, we definitely need the Craig Armstrong string parts.
We need to rewrite the script as well. We'll say no more.
There's room for a Donald and an Ian in this, and a Tricky Margaret.
Oh.
yeah. Oh, there you go. We've got all the lead characters. We just base it off this record.
I think it's a goer, guys.
Yeah.
Totally. It's great. That Creative Scotland funding application in.
If
Perfect.
anyone
Working
can
on
make
it
it
right
happen, you could, Deirdre. I have confidence in that. If you set your mind to something, it will happen.
I'll try. Just you hang on, it'll happen. This one, I should actually tell people what the song's about.
Oh, aye. But
It's about Ian, and he's a heartbreaker. And again, it's another just beautiful poetry, beautiful imagery, describing this guy Ian in all his splendour. But unfortunately, Ian's not wanting her. And there's two interpretations of this song, and I think my mum always felt that I should have sung the one where she's more sassy at the end, because the very last line says, what does it say? Forgot the words. It says, if you found someone else and I'm not good enough for you, then you go on and be happy with someone else, and I'll just let you go. And I just kind of go, oh. So there's the interpretation where you could go, you just try and go find someone better than me, and which would be the kind of sassier, kind of more female empowerment take to it. And I just went, no, I want the drama, I want the heartbreak, and I chose the other route. And I think if I reference it, there is another interpretation to it. Oh, can I just point out the strings here? It sounds like an organ. I love that. I think that might be my favourite part out of the whole album. It's just, you did something on the mixing, Angus.
yeah, there's a... what's it called? Can't even remember what it's called. It's a kind of reverb, like a really glassy, kind of sparkly reverb that's all over this track. But it just kind of adds all these little harmonics and little kind of shiny things. And you can kind of hide it so you're not really aware of it. But at that moment, I just kind of pushed it right up, so we got this extra little tail happening at the end of it. Where it's like a nice little moment for it. But
Beautiful.
Lovely. Yeah, the lyrics for this, oh,
Yeah.
just so sad, and I think I just try to make it sort of pining, music to pine to. Just,
What
it's so wistful and just love lost, it's like kind of sighing in places, and
what I remember, like, before anybody who played in the record, when they came in, before they did their take, Deirdre kind of gave a team talk before each track, explaining exactly. So she had the chartboard out and the marker. She's like, right here. These are the big moments we need to hit. But it was great because it just gets you in that mindset, and you have to be there. You kind of really get into
That
it
was
for
really
games.
important to me, though. I was aware that not everyone speaks Gaelic, and of course I'm very aware that as an audience, a listening audience, to those of you who have been listening to the album, that most people are not going to understand the words, and so I wanted to make sure that everyone knew what the story was, and I think I feel that sense comes into the playing, and that's probably another reason why I wanted the album to be as dramatic as it was, because you might not understand it, but you feel it. And I think that was successful. Oh, here's the line. It's the clincher. That's it. It's probably worth saying as well, this one was recorded live, but that vocal was re-recorded because
Don't
the
tell them, don't
partying.
tell them.
Oh no. The partying had not fared well for my voice in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was redone, but yeah, I remember every time we played that back before you redid the vocal, you were just like kind of making noises in the studio and howling and going like, oh, I need to do that again. So you were quite keen. I was like, well, maybe we should. It's maybe not the worst idea, but it's a really hard thing, that like to replace a vocal on a live take that's not on a click track is a really
That was
tricky
hard.
thing. It's to try and get a performance, because we're all following you, and then so it's not natural for you to follow those parts. So yeah, you did very well in that. I was amazed.
I practiced a lot
Yeah.
to get
But
that
yeah.
one hitting the same points. Yeah. Right, let's go partying.
No,
Woo.
Oh,
Kinda
not
partying.
quite a party yet.
not quite the full.
Not the full thing. Ed Farron La, a walking song composed by an absolute hero of mine, Mary Alistair Roy, or Mary MacLeod, and she was the unofficial bard of Clan MacLeod. It's in Vegan and Harris, and she just led such an amazing life where she became like this unofficial bard with no training, and she composed all these amazing praise poetry for the MacLeods. And then she also composed like vernacular kind of lighter songs. So this song, I always love giving the chat about her and how she's this incredible poet and all these bardic things, and then I'm like, and this song's about a boat. But it's a walking song that I first learnt when I was at uni, and it's a great song. It's just a really upbeat, lively walking song with a great chorus in it, and it was definitely one of the ones. Donald was an absolute certain from the very beginning. I definitely want Donald on the album. I definitely want Ed Farron La. And other than that, there was a bit of picking and choosing over songs, but they were certs. Oh, that's the drums in.
Yeah. Great.
There's an amazing
So-
wee delay sound. It's like ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch on it.
This line here, I love this.
Yeah.
So this is one, right? It's got a chord in it. I know.
That one there.
Yeah.
And it's coming. That one, that wee major lift or something. It's great.
There was only, I think, one chord from my initial charts that Deirdre vetoed. She didn't let me get through, and it was killer. It was an amazing thing. She's like, it's just too much. But I got that one. I'm quite proud of that one. There's a couple of nice changes, but it was just too much for you. Fair enough.
Yeah, that was
This
great
is
though.
a
You
traditional
definitely got
album.
the darkness in there.
It's amazing just how it expands and then it just settles. It's like, I don't know, it's a boat trip, so it's almost like this big splash and then it just ripples out at the end.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of fun.
big wave. Yeah, big sort of arc, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like putting a lot of 2s against 3s. That's what I did in this piece. There's a few other pieces like that, just to create a bit of tension and a bit uncertainty. What's happening? Where's the beat?
It was cool. And I love as well, again, it doesn't just finish, it keeps going. It's got really long tail to it.
There we go.
James Lindsay is saying, we need to hear that version, Angus.
Definitely with that chord.
The producer's cut my one chord change that no one will ever notice. I can't even remember who
I
it was
will.
now. I just remember you would get like a kind of, you'd send the demos back to Deirdre, and then you'd see the WhatsApp messages coming through of like kind of, and it was always really positive, but you could tell by the tone it'd be like, well, just on this one track, and you're like, I know what's coming here. But
quite right, girl.
You weren't bad at all. You weren't bad at all. It's good. I much prefer working with people who really know what they want, and then you can kind of push into that. You can kind of go, well, try that. But when they'll come back and go, yes, no, because the maybe thing just is really hard. You know, this kind of being in the middle, but you definitely are not in the middle. You know exactly yes or no either way, which just makes it so easy.
But a lot of it, I didn't say no to a huge amount. I feel like I was open to trying some new things. So, right, let's get partying before you paint a terrible picture of me.
Trying new things.
Okay. Here we go. I love this. So this is another Mary McLeod one. The same woman. She led such an incredible life. She was exiled for just having this wonderful gift of creating poetry. She was brought back on the promise that she would never compose poetry again, and she said, "Oh, okay." Of course, she did, and we're so thankful for it. And this one, so we call it Tricky Mags or Tricky Margarita. It's called Mairit and Kudat, and it's a walking song that's basically, I think of it as my Taylor Swift kick-ass song, which is just, she's been wronged, she's been slighted, and she's just going, you don't wrong me and get away with it. And she composed this song to kind of right the rumours that were being spread about her, and it's great. This is the only one that's got any vocal harmony on it. Just got a wee bit. Just one wee thing. We did a bit of double tracking of our burger songs, but this is the only one that's got a wee. This was
I love this bit.
We went full disco.
Definitely.
I love this drop coming.
Yeah. I feel like I look at the cat that's been going around the internet. Sorry.
Do that. Get one of those.
Yeah, this is just pure disco strings. That's what he asked for. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to channel the most amount of sheet string parts I can. Straight back to the 70s. Studio 54.
Yeah.
I've got a few. There's like this really horrible. If I saw that you get a really horrible like 90s dance piano that's going on in there, and it's just like ding 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 ding, and like something like a Pulitzer through a wah-wah pedal, and there's so many little things just trying to make that kind of like funk thing happen. It There we go.
I remember driving down, anytime I was driving down to the studio, I had the windows down, the volume up, and playing this with like the demo tracks. The wee lambs on your farm were rattled.
She's back.
Yeah. There was one version before, like, as the layers were being built up, there was a version, and it's got this, and I think the sound's still in there, Angus. There's like this kind of horn sound almost.
Okay.
I call it the Calmac Ferry in the nicest way.
Oh, it's maybe,
It's just this.
I think there ended up with about 8 or 9 keyboard tracks in this one, and then the bass. There's 2 bass parts, like the electric bass part, then there's a synth bass part, and then that's feeding another that kind of funny tremolo synth Chris did again. So yeah, there is a lot in this. The Pro Tools session is massive. It's just like But I think the biggest challenge with this was making it not really stand out in the album as like completely out of place. But I think where it is in the album as well, and the fact it's got a big long intro, so it kind of like it takes its time getting to the disco bit. You know, it kind of sets it up, but it's not just if it started just with that straight away, I think it would have stood out too much. But yeah, it's a tricky balance, but I love it. It's so fun.
It's great. We had such a good party to that afterwards. We're just absolutely buzzing from it.
Yeah, we did.
Every single time it came on in the control room, Deirdre just danced. She was just away. It was just like, we're just okay. We'll just do another vocal take, and we're like, she's off. It's like,
it's such fun.
Well, we're nearly at the end of the album. There's just one track left, and I think in many ways this is my favourite one, and it's just it's a beautiful track. It's an entanglement of 3 fairy songs, and it's let's put it on and have a listen. So this is the URRANTA, an-Diugh, the fairy ones, because I think I need to calm down after all the dancing. So it might surprise you that this is the one that I wanted as the electronic track originally.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was going to be the Marabou State ripoff.
Well, that was because initially we just it was 3 separate songs, but they were really short. And then that, I think, on the first playthrough, I was like, let's just see if these all work on top of each other. And then that was like the moment. It was like, okay, we can. It'd be really nice to do something really different with this and try this overlapping, and having the 3 voices overlap and intertwine and stuff. But as soon as I'd heard this kind of, once we tried the slower arrangement and heard the strings, I was like, I couldn't get my head back into the more dancey version. So it was or how we can make it fit on the album. So I was quite pro going with this version. You can still remix it, that's fine. But I think it's such a beautiful end to the album. Like it's just.
After that mega party, it's like total chill out track.
Yeah.
It's so ethereal, and your voice on it's just really stunning, Deirdre.
Thank you.
So delicate.
Yeah. I think it's I think it worked out for the best. I think our party tracks are good party tracks, but then this is it's got a wee tingle to it, and it's we did talk at one point of doing 2 versions. I was clinging on to that dream for a while. We were going to have an upbeat version, then this one, but this one I think it just sits so beautifully as it is. And it, again, very, very different to the others. I mean, I think sometimes when you listen to the tracks, it's like the obvious ones, like the Tricky Mags or Moch and Jure Mary, or those are like, oh, this is different, and they're big tracks. But this one is so different. It's not, like a ballad or anything like that. It's so different in a very subtle way.
Just taking that space, it's like, I think there's always, especially traditional music, there's always this kind of feeling that you have to be doing lots. There has to be things happening and chords changing and movement and stuff. And it's just like, just ending, especially in a record, just give it time, give everything time. There's no rush, and then having the other vocals come in over the top.
It's lovely.
dead simple chords, but that's all we need.
Mm-hmm. I think we've only got 4 chords that just go round and round.
Yeah, I didn't even need a chord chart written out for this one. I can remember it. Which is pretty good for me. I haven't done this one live yet though.
I remember those words as well because I just hum at the beginning. I know we've not done it live. It would be lovely to be able to do it live with either looping it or hopefully getting other singers or something and kind of manage all the layers would be pretty special.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I like this. This drop here is great. Just sets up the big ending.
Yeah.
We should have brought drums in
Warm.
there.
Yeah.
Timpani, everything, go for it.
Oh, I'd love a bit of timpani.
And you can hear Alice's cello absolutely resonating through that whole just bass line. She's got an incredible instrument, so powerful and warm and rich and loud. It sounds amazing.
And then it's a totally symmetrical, isn't it? We start and we build up, and then it just comes right back down to where we started again.
Yeah, it's like I think can't remember the structure, but it was we kind of worked our way out that all the melodies took the lead at some point, and then they all moved back in to different positions relative to each other. So it was kind of like a math problem, like trying to figure out right. We've had that and that. Now we can have this and that and this and that and that, and then all three, and then drop it back out. So.
Yeah.
And those shimmering strings.
I remember I woke in the middle of the night saying, will I keep the last cello note in or not?
Oh.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Just upper
It
strings.
was just the top strings just going away into the distance.
Wow. Oh, it's beautiful. There
you
you
go.
go.
That's the first time I've heard the album since I think we finished it, since we mastered it.
What? You don't play it on repeat?
Oh, wow.
No.
Sorry, we talked all the way through it.
I know.
I know.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Nah, well done,
But
team. Superb.
yeah, good team.
Stunning.
Fantastic team. So it was lovely.
Well, you have such a great vision.
Don't worry, I've got the vision for the second and the third album as well on the way.
Excellent.
I'll send you a voice note.
It's going to start tonight. There'll be a WhatsApp group created of like, oh no, we're away.
Absolutely. No, it really was. It was an absolute delight. The whole process from just coming up with the ideas and doing the demos. Actually, the demos were during Celtic Connections. I probably started playing people the demos then, but to kind of go, to kind of the whole journey from January 2019 right through till it was just released in December there, was just shy of 2 years, was just incredible and such a beautiful chance for me to do something that I feel so much with those songs, but also just to have that team around me. It just went, wow. It took it to a level that I really couldn't even have imagined. So thankfully there is no accordion or my own string parts on it, because I don't think we'd be here today.
You have to save something for the second album. You can't just do it. Clarsack.
Yeah.
It's going to be next album's going to be Clarsack led with
Timpani and French horn.
Yeah, there we go. Done. Like, just decide it.
Excellent.
We'll make it work. It'll be fine.
And I think those of you who are watching along, I think you might have got the sense that we had so much fun along the way, and it really was just a great team, just such a joy. And of course, it's just the three of us here today, but there were so many other people involved in it that made it such a great experience. So thank you.
Thank you. No, it's well done, Deirdre. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
It's an album.
Fabulous.
Well, I'm just going to round things up just now by saying thank you again to you two, and thank you very much to everyone who's been listening at home and commenting. I'm sorry we didn't get all of the questions. There's something here. Alan would love to hear these live. Do you have any gigs lined up for after lockdown? Yes. A couple I can tell you about at the moment. There's Angus and I are doing an online gig, so you can all come on the 20th of May. Yeah.
Cool.
Don't worry, I'll be hounding you. An online gig, and also some plans coming together for the summer for real life gigs. Shona, with yourself and James Lindsay as well, which will be a total delight, and hopefully we'll get the chance to do this totally live some point. And it would be amazing to have you all there. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, then please do check out Angus and Shona's websites, check out their social medias, subscribe to our news. And if you want to hear all our chat again, this will be going up online so you can rewatch it.
That's my evening sorted.
Yes. But thank you very, very much. Shona, I think you have got to be somewhere very, very soon. So we'll let you go just now. And Angus, thank you very much again. And we will see you all soon. Take care. Is more and thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Deirdre. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.